Welcome to Hybrid Jazz from Trish Hennessey. Hybrid Jazz is a vision of all that is jazz, both traditional and contemporary, domestic and global. Here's your host, Trish Hennessey.
Well, thank you, Dave, and happy Valentine's Day to my good friend Dave Solomon in Philadelphia, who never fails to send me something sweet on any occasion, and he did that today. This is a crazy day. This is after 2 laptops have gone kaflooey. I am on my son's computer, but it's a really cool thing because now I can do exclamation points, which I didn't have access to do on my other 2 laptops. And let me tell you, nobody is worth more exclamation points than this man that you are about to hear momentarily. I told the world in the past couple of days that when I heard the CD, Songs from This Season, I don't know what was happening in my state of consciousness because, I mean, I'm of a certain age, but I don't remember Coltrane and the great ones in Philadelphia being in the recording studio. But my mind started to go back in time, imagining what it was like for Train or for Charlie Parker or for Miles Davis back in those days to hear live instrumentation in the studio, and I just saw them thank those involved in the studio. Hey, that was a great track. Thanks a lot for being part of this project. That's the greatness I heard when I heard Tim Green, who is a composer, arranger, and master saxophonist, and is so worthy to wear the crown of new blood continuing the genre of jazz. Tim, follow that, my friend.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for having me, Trish. This is really an honor. And thank you so much for your kind comments and all your support with this record. It means so much to, just have the music out there and just have people really like the music. Spend a lot of time on it, and to have people like it means everything. That's what I've been doing it for people to really love it.
Well, you just did a great job, Tim, and I know that it's in your blood, honest to gosh, because Dad and Uncle were singers, and your older brother was a trumpet player, so this kind of didn't necessarily come easy to you, but you were accessible to all the music when you were younger, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. My father is a singer. He played the bass as well. My brother's a trumpet player. And, growing up in a musical type of house, my parents would play gospel music. They would play some whinings. My father was into a lot of still is into a lot of different music, classical music and jazz and so many different styles. So that was just around me when I was younger, and I just kind of kept with it as I went along.
You absorbed all of it, and I really love it. Part of the reason why that this CD, which is brand spanking new, Songs from This Season, really got me. Tim, you can always tell when somebody has church in their background. You can't ever get away from that, and thank God for it.
Yes, indeed. It's in me, and played in church and the things that different gospel artists, and it just started to become a part of my plan, and it's a become about my lifestyle, and it comes out in the music that I write now. I'm a jazz head at heart, but gospel music. I mean, everything started in church, blues, and a lot of different things. So that's kind of the center of all music for the most part. So I'm glad that
you are right. Out. And you know what? You can always tell the difference when somebody doesn't have church or an affinity for gospel, because that's really what gives you the true soul. And it actually paves the way for a serene roadway to take, because you're already so centered that it gives you kind of a freedom to explore. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that center, that type of thing, it just kind of helps you just to kind of, for the most part, just kind of give yourself, like you said, like just a center, just to know that, everything outside of that you can pretty much get to, as long as you understand that what you're playing is, to touch people or to dig deep. I mean, playing in the church and being in situations, you always have to dig deep. Like if you're playing in church or playing the solo or playing the hymn, it's not good enough to just get up there and play it and be virtuosic. Like, if you did a great job, the oldest mother in the church is going to come up to you and say, you really made me feel blessed today or something,
That's right.
That's the that's the marker for playing in church for the most part. So I guess I kind of take that into all of my playing, and try to always dig deep or find something in the moment that'll really kind of touch people for the most part, So that's kind of my approach for a lot of music now.
Oh, I can definitely feel it, and some of the titles speak for themselves. And it's so wild because there is a female artist that's getting, and I'm not going to mention any names. She is really getting a lot of attention, and she seems to be the flavor of the week, and she's had an extended run on that. But she made it clear a couple of years ago. She talked about the fact that she had no church background. So basically her background was pop. And you know what, Tim? I hear the hollowness of the delivery. It's not the same.
Yeah. I was watching an interview online, and Benny Green, great, jazz pianist, he was talking about that. He said, now a lot of people getting signed for different reasons because of a look. I mean, that's great and everything, but everything that you play should at least have some type of blues or some type of cry in it, something that expresses some type of emotion. So, we're living in a different climate now for the most part, but, a lot of the times the people, the greats, that have done it, like Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway and so many others, that music always lasts and lives on. So I'm encouraged by that as well.
Oh, yeah, you should be. Oh, my gosh. And actually, because of what you learned early on, I mean, here you were at the Baltimore School of the Arts, and that was a big deal because you were selected from over 500 hopefuls to join this 25-member Grammy High School All-Star Band. Whoa!
Yeah, that was an interesting moment because the way that started, I was I did a camp in Vail, Colorado when I was 16, I think it was. So I did that, and I was there. I was studying with John Clayton, Judge Clayton, and Charles Stafford was there as well. And I wasn't that great, but I was around some of the highest, players in high school. So I said, okay, it's time for me to go back home and just practice, and try to get better because I saw the level of talent that was out there from, being around that environment. So after that, I think that was my 10th grade year. In my 12th grade year, the opportunity came around for me to, audition for this Grammy band, and I auditioned on tenor saxophone and ended up getting the first tenor chair, and that was like really, really encouraging to me. And I was able, for the most part, kind of to catch up to, I guess, the status quo of, how a lot of the, the greatest high school players were playing at the time. There was a lot of great musicians in that band. It was Ambrose Akamushiri, Obed Calvert, who else was in it? Aaron Parks was in that band.
Wow.
Matt Brewer. A lot of musicians were in that band the last time. All good friends of mine. They're really doing great now. So that was a great experience.
And this is so cool because, here we go. We fast forward to current times, songs from this season. And it's a very intriguing title. I'll have to ask you about that. But, you've built this base of friends that are A-team musicians in Baltimore because you've got some major players on here, and then you've got some folks that are major players aren't in Baltimore that have just had accolade after accolade said about you. Holy cow, do you feel like you're on cloud nine right now?
Yeah, I'm on cloud nine. I haven't been getting much sleep. I've just been really, just kind of, every single last comment and every email I get, every like on Facebook and retweet I get on Twitter just is so inspiring to me. That's, as an artist, for the most part, you want to do what's in your heart to do and put out there. And if you can do what's in your heart and put it out there, people love that. That's the greatest reward, that you just really feel great about the music that you're putting out and that people feel great about what you're doing that's in your heart. So every single last, like and, and comment I get or email, it just encourages me. So I'm getting those all day long and returning emails, and, I'm going back and even listening to the album, I'm like, did I miss something? Because a lot of people are telling me, like, man, this track. So I'm, like, feeling like I'm listening to the album more than, kind of what fresh is, because a lot of people, like, picking stuff out that I didn't even really notice. So yeah, it's been really great. The response has been awesome.
Well, you really do deserve it because you've been doing your thing for a while, and just, man, you talk about a hometown hero, having worked at WSMJ for a few years in town. Mm-hmm. We would have this little online feature called Hometown Heroes, and it was mostly the contemporary guys, and you, to me, are the very breadth of what real jazz is. But you can't necessarily be defined. You, oh my gosh, you are so incredible now. I don't know what you're going to be like in 10 years. But you're constantly evolving. But
Thank you so much.
The point is, you are welcome. The point is that you have had this really classy journey, Tim. You seem to know which way to go, and you found along this path some people that were so happy to help you because they recognize this light in you. I love the partnership, the association, the friendship you have with Mulgrew Miller. That's so astounding.
Oh, yeah. Mulgrew is, I just talked to him, I think a few days ago. I mean, he's like, oh, man, what can I say about Mulgrew? He's like he doesn't know it, but I look at him like as an uncle, you know? Like an uncle. You know, he's, you know, you would think somebody of his caliber just wouldn't have any time to, like, even reach out, you know what I mean? But he reaches out just randomly, you know, I might be, you know, out of the country or something, and he'll just, you know, kind of reach out and send me a message or give me a call, and you look at your phone, and it's Mulgrew Miller, you know. That's all, every time he calls me, it's still, you know, I'm still excited, you know. It's always, you know, I get a chance to talk to him and tell me stories and stuff about Tony Williams and all this other stuff, and incredible. It's just a great relationship I have with Mulgrew. It's just really great.
That's so funny because I know that feeling so well. Each time somebody that you really respect and like a lot, you see them call on the phone, you go, oh, my God, they're calling me again.
Right. That's how I feel every time. I feel like that all the time. It never gets old. Like I can never just, you know, be like, okay, yeah, this is just Mulgrew. He's just, no, it's always, you know, I'm always on my P's and Q's. The TV is off, and I'm sitting there concentrated on this conversation, you know.
That's right.
It's a real blessing.
So do you think that your time, you know, you got a bachelor's degree from the Manhattan School of Music. Mm-hmm. Do you think going to New York, getting out of Baltimore, and then seeing what the scene is like in New York made every single difference in the world?
Oh, absolutely. That was all I wanted to do as a, you know, when I was in high school. I just wanted to get to New York. And spending that time in New York really, really, really forced me to have to practice because in New York, you know, you can get swallowed up because there's so many musicians there. So in order to kind of, you know, I don't want to separate yourself, but kind of, you know, guide your way through a little farther, you have to just be, so it has to be something special about you, or you have to really put in the time, you know. So I remember first year I was in New York, me and a friend of mine, Ambrose, at Kamusha, we went to the IJE, and at the time I was just, you know, kind of meeting more people. We went to the IJE, which is, I think it's the International Jazz Association, something like that. But anyway, we went there, and I started meeting all these saxophone players I didn't know. I was like, wow, there's all these musicians that are around, and they're amazing as well. So it just inspired me to practice, and I was listening to so much music. I was, you know, in New York, and I was hearing so many different people play every time. Like when I was at Manhattan School of Music, there were so many great alto players there. It was Jaleel Shaw was there, Miguel Janan, Will Vincent, Erica Von Kleiss, and you know, those alto players. I mean, they're for the most part peers of mine, but I mean, you know, those are like the premier alto saxophone players of, you know, our time now. So while I was there, you know, I was around those people, you know. So if I didn't practice or try to, you know, get together, I would just, you know, kind of just fade a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of keep up, and that type of energy of being in New York kind of really helped out, you know, and worked for the best, you know. So. And
you really did your homework. That's in essence what I was going to say, because you seem to come correct at every situation. And man, has that been noticed, because not only did you get your master's in jazz studies at U of South Carolina at the Monk Institute there, but you were recognized by the Monk Institute as being one of the best saxophonists, and I know Terence Blanchard had a lot to say about you, and he's not the only one. One of your instructors, Bob Mintzer, Yellowjackets fame, says, you are one of the brightest saxophonists on the scene. So, baby, whatever you did was good.
Yeah. I mean, Bob, one of my favorite CD to listen to when I was in high school was a CD that was called the GLP All-Star Big Band CD. And Bob Mintzer is on that CD along with Kenny Kirkland and Dave Reckel. Anyway, my father bought that CD, and that was one of the reasons why I went to Mad School of Music, because he was a teacher there. So I studied with Bob at Mad School of Music for a year. He lived in the suburbs of New York, so I would have to catch the train out there, and he'd pick me up from the train, and I would just stay at his house, for maybe like 2 or 3 hours. We would practice together and things, stuff like that. So we were able to kind of develop a relationship through that. We still keep in touch to this day every once in a while. So Bob has been a huge supporter of mine. I really appreciate him doing that too.
Well, he, there are some people that don't fritter away their time, like Bob and like Mulgrew, and Terence. So if they're going to say something about you that's cool, they mean it.
Yeah, I mean, Terence, while I was at the Monk Institute, he taught me so much, not so much about the notes in music, but he taught me, things I'm still learning now, like just how to be a musician, how to, get rid of the other stuff, all the notes and the changes and everything like that, but how to develop your musicianship as a jazz musician, how to not write a tune, but how to write a song, not just a solo, but to tell a story, and, try to live out, your day-to-day experiences within the music more as a human being besides being a musician, the same folks that, Wayne Shorter and Herbie Hancock are coming out of as well. So Terence really, really, really instilled that in me and all the rest of the guys that were at the school. So I really appreciate Terence, his influence in my life and, giving me that, putting that quote out there. That really means a lot to me.
Well, you mean a lot to some of these guys because you're breathing new life into a genre that really cries out for it. And I just love the fact that you spread your wings on this. I didn't know a whole lot about you, Tim, and I've discovered a whole lot about you in a short period of time. God, wow. You're so impressive. What you are able to do in the way of musicianship and the folks that have gathered around you who seem to be just so happy to play with somebody who gets it. Oh, my God.
Wow. It's been incredible, like, having people, like Orrin Evans and, Warren Wolf and Rodney Green and Obed and, Alan and Chris, everybody on the record, just have been willing to do the album was just, just a blast. I did everything independently, so I didn't have a Blue Note Records budget or anything. So they were just really willing to just, come in and really help me out with the record. I really appreciate it,
And so you did not. As far as Blue Note is concerned, trust me, this is going to create a buzz. If you are able to do this after a little bit of time and surround yourself with the people that you did, sure. Including, by the way, is this the correct pronunciation of his name? Because I just love his work. Gilad Hexelman?
Oh, yeah, Gilad Hexelman. Yep, that's the right way to say
it.
Great.
Whoa!
Yeah, Gilad is incredible musician, guitarist. And I met him through Obed. I was looking, trying to hit the sound of a guitar, and I was like, let me just try to add this to some of my music. And we played a few gigs in New York, and, we just, started to play a lot together. And, I called him to do the record, and he just came in and totally just demolished everything, killed everything, just sounded amazing. So it's really a pleasure to play with Gilad.
Well, I want folks to hear a track, and, of course, it was really difficult to figure out 3 tracks that I was going to play. But you took the time to explain each track, so I didn't read. I didn't read the explanation until I heard the music. So what song hit me? It just got real personal for me because I love the New Testament so much. I'm a pretty spiritual person that's based in Jesus a whole lot. So when I read about, and hopefully this is the right way to pronounce it, Siloam.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's right.
I love that. I love that song.
Yes. A powerful story behind that name.
And I want you to explain that story and why you came to write that.
Okay, absolutely. You want me to explain it now?
Yes. So before we go into it.
Okay, cool. So, Siloam is a pool in Jerusalem, and story in the Bible goes where Jesus and his disciples were walking, around a time, and they were, Jesus was performing a lot of miracles and things of that sort. And they were walking along, and his disciples saw this blind man. And his disciples said to, Jesus, what has this man done that he's blind? What sin has he committed that he's blind? And, Jesus told his disciples, this man hasn't committed any sin, but, the point of his life is to give God glory through me making him, being able to see again. So, he told the blind man, to, put the mud in their eyes, and told him to go to the pool of Siloam and wash his eyes, and then his eyes will be made to see again. So that song represents me just basically kind of, surrendering myself to, God's plan for the most part, just saying, okay, for you to get God to get the glory out of my life, I'm just like the blind man got glory. Just like God got glory out of the blind man's life from him being blind and being able to see again. That's the way I want God to get the glory out of my life. So me starting the CD with that track is just me saying basically like, okay, this is just about God, just get the glory over this whole CD. So I just wanted to kind of, play that song to begin the album just for me to kind of acknowledge God that, whatever my blind man situation is, that, whether it's, no matter what it could be, that, I can overcome anything, and that, God can, heal my situation or heal anybody's situation, and, he'll get the glory out of it. So that's basically what the whole CD is about, just kind of offering my gift back up to God, So yeah, that's the story behind it.
I love
Give me the preaching on here now.
I know. See, I knew you were going to take that and run with it. I knew.
Every one of those titles, I can probably talk about each one for like a good 5 minutes. So.
Well, I just love that. That's pretty amazing. And trust me, the folks that are about to hear this will help you see. This is Tim Green, our guest this hour, and this is one of those glorious 6-minute tracks from songs from this season. This is called Siloam on Hybrid Jazz from Trish Hennessey. kid sick. That's just sick. Tim Green, songs from this season with some folks on here: Josh Ginsberg on acoustic bass, Obed Calvera on drums, Gilad Hexelman on guitar, Romaine Cullen on piano, Tim Green, alto sax. You were cooking with gas on that thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Gilad was standing up as well. Ooh, oh my goodness, I was listening to some other stuff I hadn't heard before.
and you know what? It's so cool because I mean he's Israeli, so that just absolutely makes me so happy that somebody who came from Israel is able to lend something different to the mix. You know?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many great musicians that moved to New York and live in Israel. I mean, that lived in Israel that moved to New York. Avishai Cohen, you got
yes.
Who else? What's the clarinet player? I forgot her name, but she's amazing. But so many other musicians, you know, Gilad included, you know. And Eli Djibri, he's another one, incredible. I was just over in Israel this past summer doing the Red Sea Jazz Festival, and they love jazz so much, and so many great musicians there. So Gilad comes out of that same lineage of just, you know, great Israeli musicians.
Was that the first time you were in Israel, Tim?
That was the second time.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was the second time. I went in 2006, I think. And, yeah, just this past summer. And, you know, I'm glad I got out of there when I did. But I had a good time.
I know. It's one of those situations where, you know, you just have to pray that God's got it all together. And
yeah, started getting deep over there.
I know. And what can you do? You can't cry, so you have to, like, laugh nervously. It's
absolutely.
It's completely out of our hands, so, you know.
I love my Israeli brothers and sisters. That was the most intense security check at the airport I've ever experienced. But I think so. Yeah. And
meanwhile, I find out from my friend and my sister that I just spent some time with the other day, Anita King, who was touring in Israel over the summer. She was amazed because, you know, as much as the security is tight, there are kids playing in the street and there are people having coffee at the cafes. It's like life goes on. What can you do?
Oh yeah. They don't even, you know, flinch. They just used to that type of, you know, environment. So they just go about their day. This is great.
Yep. It's a really amazing let's take life one day at a time scenario.
Absolutely.
And that's another reason why this CD is a standout, because you know what? You've got these little snapshots with each song of life, and each track is so different. Oh, wow. The creative factor involved in this Tim is just crazy. And I know that we've had 45 minutes for this interview, but there's so much I want to ask you. What do you want to do with songs from this season, and why is it named that way? 2 questions.
Let's see. What I want to do with it, I pretty much wanted to put out, you know, just a story about, you know, I just, you know, believe, and I'm sure everybody feels the same way, but, you know, art should just reflect life. You know, it should be. I was reading an article recently, or Herbie Hancock was talking about the Philharmonic Monk Institute, and he said something that just really stuck out to me. He said that, you know, it's not about really what you're playing for the most part, but it's about what you're saying. Like, what do you have to say? You know, I mean, not outside of the music, what do you have to say? So, for the most part, with this music, I just wanted to just put it out just to tell my story, you know what I mean? Just tell my story through music, you know, and, you know, hopefully people will like it, and hopefully they can go on a journey, you know. And, you know, being around, I had a great chance to be around Wayne Shorter and play with him a little bit while I was at the Monk School. And his concept is, with music, is just, you know, it goes hand in hand just with life, you know. So, you know, it's not, you know, just trying to be a musician or saxophone player, but, you know, trying to tie everything together with life and music and your composition. It should just all be kind of in one. So for the most part, I just wanted to put it out. You know, we needed to put out a CD for a long time, and I wanted to put it out just to show the world, you know, exactly what I have to say musically, compositionally, and everything else, you know. And I'm glad that it's going to come across in that way as well. And but as far as the title, I might have said a little bit about it, but songs from this season, you know, each song on the record represents a certain time in my life or a season that I like to call it, and many people do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been a point where I was reading a certain story, or for instance, there's or another time, you know, in my life, and there's a song in it called Chi-Town that's written for my wife.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
She went to school in Northwestern in Chicago, and while she was there, you know, we call it Chi-Town because she was in Chicago. So anyway, that was dedicated to her, and another song on the record called Time for Liberation. That was a time where I was at the monk school and really got inspired while I was there. My Spike Lee came and did a master class, and you know, each song has a different concept. It's based on a certain period or a time or where I was feeling that time. Like the song called Peace, the song I wrote in 2007, I want to say. Moved back for the Thelonious Monk Institute, and I was just basically trying to figure out like what my next move was going to be. And you know, I just went to the piano. I just started just feeling this peace about, you know, that I was in the right place, you know, and you know those chords and that melody came from that. So every song that I write, I try not to put it out or try not to, you know, try to keep it under wraps until I really feel like it's something that's directly connected to me or my life or some type of moment that I'm involved in at that chance. So I just want to put that out there, and hopefully that will connect with people and they can kind of feel that same experience, you know, because, you know, I guess I feel like that's what people want to hear. They want something that involves a story, you know what I mean? Not you just necessarily playing. For the most part on the CD, I open up a lot of songs, but I just really wanted to convey a melody or really convey a certain type of thing to people to hear or whatever the mood of a song was. You know, I just kind of wanted to convey that for the most part. So that's the long or the short of it for the most part.
And it's so cool because sometimes it can make all the difference in how a title is worded. So the intriguing part of the title for me is Songs from This Season, so that you can constantly let people be aware that whatever they're going through, there's a song on this CD for them.
Wow. You know what? I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about it because that's really cool. I didn't even think about that concept. Yeah, because every song, I have a song on there that represents, I guess, a lot of different things. So a song represents hope, and then hope, peace. I have a song on there, Don't Explain. That's about a relationship. You know, Billie Holiday's Don't Explain. That song, you know, the words of that song is pretty heavy, but that was a season in my life where, you know, I was in a relationship and, you know, the relationship broke off, like the song says, you know, hush now, don't explain. You know, I'm glad that you're back, but don't explain. You don't have to explain anything, just, you know, come back. So that was a certain season in my life where I was, you know, experiencing that type of story. And I started to put that on there. So, like you said, that's very true. I didn't think about that. But, you know, those songs will live on based on, you know, similar seasons or times that people will go through, including myself. So
it will always,
that's really cool.
It will be relevant for whenever somebody hears it. And the reason why is because you allowed yourself to be obedient as to when the songs came forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, you know, for me, I just really have to be inspired to write for the most part. I'll sit at the piano and I'll write something, but it just has to just hit me, you know. I'm not to get too deep, but I feel like, you know, God just has to give it to me, you know, like it has to be just given. Like I said, I have to feel like the song is a gift to me to give back. You know, it's not necessarily this is my song, just like God giving me a gift, like to give back. And I think that's the thing that Wayne Shorter and all great musicians and composers, like everything and the way they write music is not forced. It's not like some idea that, you know, it's forced and you just putting it out, but it's like a gift. That's why we still play Footprints now. That's why we still listening to Wayne Shorter, the Infinaz, and listening to, you know, this all great Miles Davis tunes, Blue and Green. That's one of my favorite, you know, stories. And, you know, those type of songs because they're really gifts that you get, you know what I mean, that you're supposed to put out to the world, you know what I mean. So that's kind of how I see it for the most part. It's coming, like I said before, kind of coming out of that Wayne Shorter, you know, type of approach to music and just how it's supposed to be intertwined with life as well. So yeah.
And you know what? One of the songs that you haven't mentioned, but I took note that this was the hardest song to do, the song that you put the most time in, and the song that spoke to me is Shift.
yeah. Shift, I wrote that in the, I don't know if you call them liner notes or just notes I wrote about the song, but I wrote that in a note. It was, gospel music is a very specific style, and everything has to be a certain way. There's an industry standard to the way gospel music is supposed to sound. It's constructed very well, and there's a certain perfection that goes into it. So that song is a song that I spent a lot of time on, just trying to get it to sound like a kind of a gospel-y type of thing. But yeah, that's another song I wrote. I was at I was at a gig, and they had a grand piano there in the church. And after the gig was over, the piano was open, everybody had left the church. And, the acoustics there were really great. So I just started playing the piano, and this melody came to me and turned into that song. So, and at the time, I could kind of feel a shift in my life happening, so I decided to call it Shift. So yeah, that's one of my favorite tunes on the record.
I figured that it was because, if you're going to be dramatic enough to call it one word like shift, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can think of.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this is chock full with some deeply involved musicians. This is Tim Green, our guest on Hybrid Jazz, and this is from Songs from This Season, and it's just called Shift. Green, the chat room is going crazy. We are digging those melodies so much.
Wow. I appreciate all the support. Everybody's listening. Thanks so much.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I'm gonna let you go, but tell us, this is great timing for this interview because the CD release party is in a couple of days.
Yes, the CD release party in Baltimore is going to be this Saturday at the Baltimore School for the Arts. That's 712 Cathedral Street, and it starts at 8 o'clock. And you can buy tickets at www.truemelodymusic.com. It's www.truemelodymusic.com. And our tickets are on sale, $15 and $12 to students, and it's going to be a great time.
Oh, no doubt.
We're going to play all this music live, and I'm sure it's going to go many places.
Woo! And who are you going to have with you?
I'm going to have Warren Wolf playing vibes. I have Chris One playing bass.
Great.
I have Alan Johnson playing piano, and Quincy Phillips playing drums.
Woo! That's really some A-teaming right there. That's great, Tim.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
all my brothers.
Yeah, and they really just the teamwork involved in this, the chemistry was so. There's such love put into this album. No joke, Tim. It's really a beautiful for us. You are so welcome. Thank you for this. I will see you. I'm planning to go on Saturday, so I'll see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you then.
Yeah, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Trish. I appreciate the support.
Absolutely.
Okay. Talk soon. Thank you.
All right, Tim. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
He has got some kind of schedule because on top of everything else, he's got to do his business during the day. All of these cats that have paid their dues in such a significant way in jazz, and especially the folks that are involved in Baltimore, they do other instruction or other private tutoring or so much to just keep it rolling on the side. So I appreciate the 45 minutes, a little bit over, that he spent with us. And I'm going to play this for you. Tim does not know that I had intended to play this third track, but there's such a myriad of different kinds of emotions from songs from this season. I wanted to make sure that we played this because it's Valentine's Day, And this particular song is a little something he alluded to. This is what it says on the liner notes. Chi-Town is probably the only song that I have ever written that has the feeling of love and romance. My beautiful wife, Anoa Green, is the inspiration behind it. This tune started with the approach of a traditional ballad, but then I decided to add a Sister Cheryl type of groove to add a different approach to this project, and it worked out great. This is there's so many standout tracks. I love each and every one, but I wanted to make sure we played Tim Green, who is so current as far as what jazz is all about in 2013, and then back it up with a track that I know you're going to recognize. This is Chi-Town, songs from this season, Tim Green on Hybrid Jazz from Trish Hennessey.